So I've got some of these parts have turned up. That's the internal spacer, the bush that goes inside that roller. So this needs to fit over my spindle, which it won't, just it's hairs off fitting. So I've got a choice, can either try and ream or bore a little bit out of there, or take a little bit off the outside of here. Not quite sure which way to go with that yet. Yeah, I mean that just goes over the thread, so it doesn't need much of. So I could, it's probably be easier to take it off the outside dimension rather than try and bore these, I would have thought. Yeah, so that's that part. And obviously that needs to go in there, which currently it doesn't, so I'm going to have to take a little bit out of the inside just to get those to fit in, and they're a little bit rough in there anyway, so that won't hurt, just to try and probably, I don't know, I could probably just get a rotary sanding disc in there, sanding pad, just to clean out that, because as I say, there's nothing in it, there's hardly anything needs taken out, so that will be that part. I've also got some these are the little seals on the end, and once I've worked out dimensions, I've got to make little thrust washers for each end, and these are just the these other parts. Get the bag open. These are late A65 rubbers, which just go over the outside of the swinging arm, just stretch over, just like a dust cover. So hopefully that will work as well. Yeah, so I'm starting to get some bits together, and can make a start on seeing if we can get this to work. Yeah, and I've also just got main bearing shells, undersize, and a bush, timing side bush, and the thrust washer as well. So getting the parts together gradually. Oh yes, and I've also got the missing breather parts. So yeah, that's the rotary disc, and that's the little spring that sits inside, and that goes over the end of the end of the cam. This is actually a used, because my cam shaft was a bit cruddy around the bearing surfaces. That started to go. One of the lobes had a little bit, although it was on the flat, so it wouldn't really matter too much, a little bit of corrosion. So I've actually got another one, a good used one. Yeah, so that actually fits in there like that. and that was the bit that was missing. So got that. Yeah, so starting to get some parts together and actually make some headway. Well, let's give that a bit of a turn down. I haven't got a very good finish on that. I only did it in the mini lathe. I probably should have put it in the other one really. But yeah, and I did just take a fraction off the inside of there, only about, I don't know, maybe a thou or two, simply to get it over the threads at the end. And I've got a little bit of a taper in it, so it gets tight around there, so I might just put it back in, because I had it set up the dead center. I don't think, you know, it's probably a bit of a bit too much for the mini lathe really. Yeah, so I'll put it back in the chuck, just chuck it a bit further in, and go over this end again, just to take about a thou off that, and I think that'll be it'll be there then. Right, there we are, that's better. Quite nice fit on there now. Yeah. So yeah, I think that will do it. All I've got to do now is work out, because I'm going to have a spacer in the middle there between the two bushes. One's got to be there, one's got to be up that end. So I'm going to need a little spacer between these just to make sure they don't move apart, because these are the bearing surfaces. And that's going to have a little fat bit in the middle for the tube, so when it's in the tube it doesn't drop. So obviously there's a big, I don't know, actually there is a bit of a wide centerpiece. I think that will still need something. I think the B50 has like a tube with a standoff in it just to hold it away. So that'll be the next thing, getting a piece of tube, because I don't think I've got anything in that particular size. Yeah, gradually getting there. Okay, so hopefully this is starting to make a bit more sense. So this is the original spindle, which I shaved a bit off for maybe, I don't know, a couple of thou. Took a couple of thou off it in the lathe, and I just smoothed it over with a stone as well. So these sleeves here, which are hardened, and go with these roller bearings, needle roller bearings. So they will be fitted inside the, pressed in the inside of the swing arm tube. Obviously these sleeves will be loose, and there'll be another piece of sleeve between there just to hold these in position. And also there'll be a little seal on the end of here, a little oil seal on the end of there, and a thrust washer, same the other side, be one on each side. Thrust washer here, just so that can be clamped in place, so these inner sleeves will not move, they'll be static with the spindle. So just the swing arm will move on these rollers. Hope that makes sense. I know what I mean. Yeah, so now next thing to do is just find some suitable washers. If not, I'm going to have to make some, which we'll particularly relish, because they're only going to be I don't really want them more than a couple of mil thick, because I will have to shave a little piece off the, here's a swing arm, we'll have to take a little bit off the end, off each end, because currently the clearance there is, in total both sides, is only about 3 mil, maybe 4 mil. Push, type of powder coating goes on, you're going to be looking at only a mil each side. I don't want thrust washers that thin really, unless I happen to find some that size. Want to be a little bit wider, possibly, so I can use the little rubber, a lot of thick rubber band that goes round just to keep the muck out. You know, the seal will keep the grease in, and hopefully the little rubber tube thing band will keep the muck out. But it will rely on a washer the same out of diameter as that, and the same inner diameter as this, and then the whole lot obviously gets compressed when you tighten it up. Yeah, hopefully that'll work. And the next challenge is going to be boring these out. Been trying to come up with some way of doing it. Ideally, a line borer on the lathe would be the best thing. I don't have one. Possibly ream it. I don't think I'd get it in a mill. I think that might be too. So that'd be the other thing, is to get it in the mill if I could mount it that way. Mount it that way in the mill and get a boring head down it. I might have to have a look at that and see if that would work. But yeah, otherwise coming along quite nicely. Well, I think I found the answer. A little honing tool which is up on the shelf, so I've just been using that. I have nearly worn the stones out though, so I think I will need to get some more just to finish it, but it's definitely taken it down over there. Yeah, so that is somewhere around, just measured that on here, that was around 1, 2, 1, 2, 4 I think it was. I'd normally stick the bore gauge in the vise and try to do it one-handed then. Yeah, anyway, that was somewhere around 1, 2, 4. Yeah, so just a bit more come off, but yeah, so I think that will actually get that with the stones. I just did take a little bit out with the these sanding discs first, but yeah, the finishing there is not that great. It's a bit graunchy from where the old Silentblocs went in, but if I can clean it out enough, not quite sure what sort of fit I need. I'll have to look that up. Obviously it needs to be tight in there. It needs to be yeah, a good fit. So the only problem is I can't really press the bearings in until this is powder coated, so I might just have to kind of leave it close, and then if it does need a bit more, or if I think it needs a bit more, once that's powder coated, I'll just have to take a bit more out with the honing tool. But yeah, I think that is the answer. Not exactly accurate, but yeah, I've only got to press them bearings in. So hopefully that should work out okay. Right, so I've been working on a piece of spacer tube, which is to go in there. That is 143.8. That gap there is 144.4. So hopefully that should give us a little bit of wiggle room for when this is powder coated. So I'll now fit this, see if that will, that should in theory tighten up, because I think there's a little bit of flex in this, the brackets either side. Yeah, oh yes, and I can show you the little washers I've got. Do the little bolt here. That's a little retaining bolt. So what we have is these washers, stainless steel washers, which obviously slide over there, and the outside diameter is the same as the outside diameter for the Swingarm tube. So you have that, the sleeve, which is the, this is the inner for the actually you could put them on there just to show you. Which is the inner bearing for that. Then we have the sleeve that I've just made. Oh yeah, dimensions. Where to put that? Where did I put that? Had that a minute ago. No. Yeah. So this piece of tube, which is seamless, is 25 OD, and as near as damn it 21, should be 21 ID. 20, well, 20.9, that should be, it's meant to be 21, which is enough clearance to go on there. So we've got that, that, I'm probably getting in your way here. The other needle roller and sleeve, and the other washer, which will go in there if you don't drop them. Let's just get that. And that. Yeah, right. That'll be easy once that's assembled properly, because this will all be inside the swing arm. Right, so got that. Let's just put push that in a little bit. Spacer. I might not find the right, just tell me put that bolt in there. Okay, so it's got needle rollers. There's also a little seal which goes on the end of here, which will be right in the end of the swing-arm tube. So we've got a little bit of play, because the idea is to nip all this internal piece up. And if the powder coat is a little bit too thick, see, I've still got a little bit of play there, so yeah, I'm doing this up. That's now starting to nip. Right. So that is tight. There's still a little bit of thread there if I needed it. That's tight on there. So they will sit something like that. Yeah, could even go a little bit more. Yeah, so obviously this is the wrong side, but just as an idea. So that will sit between there. So I've now got to take a little bit off either end of this, so that will sit between those washers. And the other thing I need to do is put a couple of grease nibbles. A couple of grease nibbles in there so I can grease from the inside out. And that will be about it, apart from I need to ream these out so these bearings will fit in there nicely. Yeah, it just need to be an interference fit, I think. Yeah, so bit by bit it's coming on. I think the next thing I'll do is take a bit off each end of here somehow. Yeah, and try and keep it square, which is going to be the tricky bit. This is my setup. Hopefully nothing will move. If it does, ooh, yeah, might be disastrous. But that is the only way I could see of actually, with the clamps that I've got, actually clamping that in. I did initially think of having it come out this way, but it's just too far in the way. I could have probably done both ends then in one go, but I'm going to have to do one end at a time. And I've got 12mm end mill in there, so I'm probably going to have to do, there's not a lot of cutting depth on that, so I'm probably going to have to do this in 2 passes at least. And well, depth of cut, that's probably I'm going to take it gentle, I think. So yeah, so each cut is going to have to be 2 cuts, if you know what I mean. If that makes sense. Yeah, so I won't bother videoing that. Not really much to see. It's all around the back, you can't really see it. Yeah, so I'll just come back when that's done. Right, so I've just put the swing arm in there. Obviously I've got no bearings there at the minute, but it's just to see how much play I've got, or how much clearance rather, and not a lot. This is nipped up, this the spindle, and I've got on the end there that's a 0.6mm feeler gauge. That's all kind of loose. A 0.7 won't go in, so I might have to take a little bit more off, bearing in mind that this has got to be powder coated as yet. That's the only unknown factor really, is the powder coating thickness. Yeah, might be okay, might not be, so I think I'd rather have a little bit of clearance, so I'm probably just going to take a little bit more off one side, so I've got at least maybe a millimetre, maybe 1.5 millimetres, side to side. You know, don't want too much. I'll see, because it's, you know, going to be floating around. The only other thing is to wait until it is powder coated and then take some off if need be, because I'm probably going to have to clean the ends up anyway. Yeah, so that's more or less done, apart from reaming out inside here for the bushes, and I can't fit the bushes until that's powder coated either, so I have just drilled and tapped for grease nibbles there and there, so all ready to go in. So yeah, basically more or less there. Right, just reaming these, the ends of these and the swing arm. Bit of a Heath Robinson setup, but it does seem to be working, and I've only got to go inch and an eighth really into each side, just enough for the bearing and the seal. So, and I'm only doing this by hand. Yeah, I don't really want to do it under power, I don't think, and I'm just adding pressure with the chuck this end. That was already away in there anyway, so this should be central here, this should be central here, so hopefully it'll be in a straight line. Yeah, well, time will tell. Yeah, so hopefully everything will be okay. Probably would have been better to line bore it. I'd had to make a tool up then. That's the only thing with that. And as I've already got this reamer, which is I think that's, can't remember what size it was now. Whatever the size it is for the bearing anyway. I'll put it on the screen what it is. But yeah, it does seem to be doing the job. So and cutting that, so hopefully we will be okay. I'll just keep going at it, and yeah, because it's not really a lot to take out. It's going in really easy, so it's just a case of really taking off all the kind of scars from when the Silentblocs were pressed in the factory. Yeah, hopefully it will all be good in the end. So I'll keep going with that. I'll get this camera out of the way so we can reach things properly, and bring it back when it's done. Right, there we are. That's both ends cleaned out. As you can see down there or not. 1.25 inches. That was what the reamer was. which obviously of course that's what these are, and yeah, that should press nicely in there. Yeah, like I say, I won't put these in yet because I've got this powder coated, so but yeah, everything being equal, that one is a little bit sloppy that side, so I may need to put a bit of bearing Loctite in there. I think that might have been a little bit out. Just tighten up a little bit further down. Yeah, I'm not going to push that too far in because you can't get it out again, but yeah, they should push in there quite nicely. Yeah, I mean, you can still see some of the scoring from, especially this side, which is probably why this is a little bit loose. See some of the scoring from when the Silentbloc bushes were installed, but you can just see a little bit of a ridge down there. It did seem as though this side it was tightening up a bit the further in I got, so hopefully there'll be enough to grip these. If not, like I say, a little bit of bearing Loctite will sort that out. Yeah, so powder coating I guess next. Oh, I've got a little bit more to do at the frame, that's it. I'm sort of halfway through making the tank bolt bracket. Yeah, but once that's done, I've filled all the holes in which I think shouldn't be there in the frame, and yeah, that can go off the powder coat then. So probably for this video on the swing arm, I think that's probably going to be it until we come to assembling, and then that'll be a whole new one. That'll probably be a whole video on the complete frame being put back together. Yeah, and then we can see if this is actually going to work or not. Until then, I don't really, don't really know. Should do in theory, but yeah, I don't want to take the chance of putting these in and then not being able to get them out, or having to muller them to get them out. I want to put them in there once and that's it. So yeah, that will be it. Thanks to everyone who subscribed. It's very good of you. I'm getting up there now. Every little one helps. So if you haven't done so already, please subscribe, please like. It does help promote the videos. More people get to see them. The more likes you get, the more YouTube promotes them or pushes them up the list. So yeah, all coming along nicely.